Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Alex, and today I want to go over some of the true contenders in the NBA from both the Eastern and the Western Conference. We're about 25 games now left into the regular season, and I feel like we have a pretty good grasp on who are really the teams that we need to look out for to possibly make it to the finals, and who are some teams that I personally just don't have a lot of belief in, and you guys might feel the same way. So let's get into it, and I want to start out first in the Eastern Conference, and the first team that we'll talk about is the Boston Celtics. We knew it since the beginning of the season that the Celtics were going to be a team that needed to be paid attention to, not only because, they've made it to either the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals, I swear, for the past, 5 years at this point. But, they got significantly better in the offseason, acquiring Drew Holiday just for Marcus Smart and some other stuff. I don't remember the whole trade package, but if you just think of it as a Marcus Smart for Drew Holiday, man, what a great trade that was, especially since Marcus Smart has barely played most of the season this year. And then they also got Kristaps Porzingis, and while, initially I was pretty sad because I really liked Robert Williams, especially because of his defense, his injury concerns were just too much of an issue. And although we have those similar issues and I guess concerns with Porzingis, the Celtics have actually been managing him pretty well, and he has yet again been relatively healthy, at least compared to his career this season. He's having one of his most healthiest seasons, and I think you can make an argument as well that he has been the second best player. It would be an argument between him and Jaylen Brown. But when you also take into account that this team's got Tatum, he's one of the top 10 players in the NBA, and again, you got Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, some really great second/third options. And then you have Drew Holiday and Derek White being your point of attack defenders as guards. Dude, this team is just really, really good. And they've been great the entire season. That's the reason why they have the best record in the NBA. They're currently 45-12, and they are really not close to being second in the East. The Cavs are 7.5 games behind the Celtics, and I don't think anyone in the East is going to catch up to them. And it's for obvious reasons. The Celtics team is heavily talented, and I think if I were to pick someone coming out of the East, it's got to be the Celtics. Now, for my other contenders for the East, this is where it gets kind of tricky because I feel pretty confident that I think the Celtics can make it back, but I do think there are two teams that we also kind of need to look out for as well. The Miami Heat. They continue throughout years. Ever since the 2020 bubble, they just will not go away. If I had to make a comparison, or like that crazy ex-girlfriend that just will not leave you alone, that is exactly what the Miami Heat are. They will continuously make their way into the playoffs and just become a infinitely better team once they get there. They're currently the 6th seed, and things can definitely fluctuate because the Sixers are going to be without Embiid for the foreseeable future. And if the standings how they are now, if the Sixers and Heat flip-flopped, the Heat would be playing the Knicks. I would favor the Heat in that series, and then they would probably have to play the Cavs or the Pacers, and then again, I would probably favor the Heat in that series as well. So they're just in this weird position where no matter how much they either underperform or just mediocre they are throughout the regular season, you just cannot count them out once they get to the playoffs. They're going to get there. It's just a matter of what are they going to look like when they get to the playoffs. And outside of one year where Jimmy Butler was kind of injured and they lost to the Bucks in the first round really bad, I don't think this Heat team is a team anyone in the East wants to see, especially the Celtics. I think this Heat team has gotten better from last season as well. Losing Gabe Vincent definitely sucked, but you're replacing him with Terry Rozier, and then you also have a really solid rookie in Jaime Jaquez Jr. You obviously still have Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo, I think, is having his best season of his career, and Tyler Hero is also healthy again as well. As long as Tyler Hero is healthy, obviously, a Miami Heat team last year with Tyler Hero probably plays a little bit better as well. So this Heat team, you just have to be aware of them, and I definitely would be scared of them if I was an Eastern Conference team. And for my last team that I do want to discuss is the New York Knicks. I really don't know how I feel about the Knicks because the Julius Randle hater in me is like, this dude just doesn't play well in the playoffs. He always shits the bed. He always shits himself. He cannot play in the playoffs. He continuously drops. Once he gets to the playoffs, he becomes a 25-point per game scorer into a extremely inefficient 16-point per game scorer. But the Knicks have been playing really well in the regular season without him. Brunson has had his best season of his career, and the depth on this Knicks team is great as well. They got Bojan Bogdanovic, OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hartenstein, even though he's really a backup big. But since Mitchell Robinson has been injured, he has slid into that starting role, and he has been very good as well. Mitchell Robinson, it was reported that he would probably miss the whole season, but Sounds like he could potentially make his way back into the playoffs, but that would be a great addition to have for this Knicks team. Dante DiVincenzo has also been really great. Just this Knicks team, Josh Hart, this Knicks team is just great. It's just a great overall team. Obviously, they don't have like a superstar player, but they got 2 star players. My only concern is Julius Randle, and is he going to perform in the playoffs? And if he does, I think we need to take the Knicks seriously. But to me, the Knicks are only going to go as far as Julius Randle takes them. And if you ask me, just based off history, I don't think that's going to happen. But again, even without Randle this regular season, I think they've looked pretty solid. And that's also without OG Anunoby as well, in making these new moves to get Bojan Bogdanovic. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and the Knicks have continuously won this regular season. So I think we definitely do need to keep an eye on them. Now, honorable mentions for the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers. I think there are definitely going to be flaws when we get to the playoffs. I think having 2 bigs on the court and no spacing with those 2 guys, even though they make it work in the regular season, I do think that could potentially cause a problem. Also, last playoffs, they got absolutely bullied by the Knicks, and I would hope that they improve and they learn from that awful performance from last postseason. I'm also concerned with the backcourt defense. Having 2 small guards and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, I don't think is a recipe for success. So while I do think they will probably get out of the first round, I just don't think they're going to make it past the second round. And then for the Milwaukee Bucks, I already made a video about why I don't think they're going to make it into the finals and why they really aren't true contenders. So if you want to check it out, definitely do it. But to just summarize that video, their perimeter defense is awful, and they have Doc Rivers as a coach. I think this is going to be an uphill battle for them. Let's move on into the Western Conference, and I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets first. I do think the one concern that I have for this team, but it doesn't really distract me from the fact that I do still think they are contenders, is that their depth is very questionable. Christian Brown, I think, has been pretty solid, but I just think I was hoping for a little bit more, especially since we lost Bruce Brown, and Christian Brown is that Bruce Brown replacement. I think Peyton Watson, he has continuously gotten better throughout the regular season, so he's been really good. But Reggie Jackson as a backup guard is just not good. He is not a great defender at all, and no matter how many defensive pieces we put around Reggie Jackson, when he comes onto the court with adding like Christian Brown, either Aaron Gordon, KCP, Peyton Watson, any sort of combination of those guys, he's going to get picked on in the playoffs, and he is a very inconsistent scorer, very streaky, so I really don't know how viable Reggie Jackson's going to be, but the Denver Nuggets, I arguably have the best starting 5, at least just in terms of fit. Jamal Murray, KCP, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jokic. That is insane, and they have shown, especially in clutch moments in the regular season, that their defense is legit. Jokic has definitely been a very good defender this year. I think people really need to start giving him some more credit as a defender, especially from what we saw in that last Warriors game. That is not the only game that he has been a good defender in. He's been a good defender pretty much the entire regular season. When all of their starting 5 is healthy, they are one of the best teams in the league, and you can just see that in their record when, again, all 5 of those guys are healthy. So you just have to respect the Nuggets. For my next contender, I actually want to talk about the LA Clippers. And this is a team that, going into the season, I had no hopes for. Kawhi Leonard just did not look good to start off the season. They made that James Harden trade, and while I wasn't overreacting to their really bad start, I was not expecting James Harden to make this much of an impact for the Clippers. They completely look like a different team from last year. James Harden was exactly what the Clippers needed in terms of having a primary playmaker. That is not Russell Westbrook, so now Westbrook can come off the bench and lead one of the best bench units in the league, also having Norman Powell as a 6th Man of the Year candidate. Kawhi has dramatically improved, and I think you can make the argument that he has been a top 5 player this year. Paul George has been very solid. He was an all-star this year. Zubac is having a career year as well. This LA Clippers team is just really, really good, and again, we can get to the playoffs and we can still be concerned about whether Paul George or Kawhi Leonard could potentially be injured. We can also be concerned about James Harden yet again underperforming in the playoffs like he usually does. And these are all fair critiques. This is why I would probably favor the Nuggets in any sort of series that they play against the Clippers, outside of just matchups and just me thinking I think the Nuggets match up better against the Clippers. But I do think the Clippers are a legit threat in the Western Conference. The offensive star power is there. They have the bench depth. Really, what's going to hold this team back is if any injuries happen to their star players, or if their star players start choking in the playoffs like they usually do. But with all this offensive help, I find it hard to believe that these guys are going to be struggling in the playoffs. And even if one of them do struggle, let's say out of Paul George, Kawhi, and Harden, let's say Harden is the one that struggles, you still have two star players, one potential superstar player that I think can pull out wins and get you through a playoff series. So I think the Clippers are definitely a team that are a true contender. For my last team in the Western Conference that I think could be true contenders, I want to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. One thing that really translates into the postseason is defense, and the Minnesota Timberwolves have been one of the best defensive teams in the league. Rudy Gobert is probably going to win yet another Defensive Player of the Year award, and I think it's very deserving. But they also got Jaden McDaniels. I think Anthony Edwards has made some pretty good strides as a defender. This is a very good defensive team, and they have some pretty good star talent as well with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. And this is where my questions start and with the Minnesota Timberwolves, because much like the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns, like Julius Randle, does not usually perform very well in the playoffs. And while I still think that this Timberwolves team is talented enough to get out of the first round, especially since they are a number 1 seed, they will be playing a pretty inferior team, whoever it is, after the play-in tournament and stuff in that 8th seed. I think they will get past the first round. But depending on how Cat performs, I think is really going to depend on how deep the Timberwolves potentially go. I would probably, again, go the Nuggets than the Clippers, but I think the Timberwolves are right behind those two teams, and again, it's all reliant on Karl Anthony Towns, and I think Anthony Edwards has shown to not only be at the level he is in the regular season and translating it into the playoffs, but I actually think he goes above and beyond in the playoffs, and he outperforms what he was doing in the regular season once he gets into the postseason. So I feel pretty confident that this Timberwolves team is going to be pretty solid, especially since I do think they cause a little bit of matchup problems, especially having two bigs on the court that have actually been doing a pretty decent job coexisting with one another. And the fact that you have Jaden McDaniels, who's one of the best versatile wing defenders in the league. Like, you have 3 players on your team that are 6'10" or taller, and there's a big reason why they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. So, like, if the Timberwolves match up with the Nuggets, I actually do think that'd be a good matchup for the Nuggets. I would still think the Nuggets would come out in that series, but the Timberwolves definitely need some respect. Now, for a couple honorable mentions as well, Oklahoma City Thunder. I really think what holds this team back is that they just need more size. I do not think that they're going to match up well if they go against the Timberwolves or the Denver Nuggets. I just don't think that's going to go over well. They're also just a very young team, and I don't really think that they're trying to compete for a championship right now. Yes, they are definitely exceeding expectations, and they made that move in the trade deadline to get Gordon Hayward, and I definitely do think that improves the team. But just overall, I don't think the Thunder are really looking to win a championship this year. Of course, it would be great for them, but I just don't think it's their time yet. I still think that they are building, and I just don't think they're ready. Also, with the Phoenix Suns, KD and Booker are one of the best duos in the league. Grayson Allen has been very good. Eric Gordon has also been pretty solid, but outside of that, I really just have questions with their big man and Yusuf Nurkic. He has, I guess, also been solid as well, but when we get to the playoffs, I don't know if his defense is going to be all that great. I do think he will probably get picked on in a lot of pick and roll action and things of that nature. I also do think that their point guard, they don't really have a point guard. It's been Devin Booker, and I think he's done a good job. But I do think they need an actual lead guard so that guys like Booker, Beal, and KD can play more off the ball, because I feel like that's how they just succeed a little bit more. Obviously, giving the ball to Booker is very good, because now you have to really keep your eyes on Booker and Beal and KD coming off of screens and stuff like that. But I don't know, I'm not crazy about the Suns' depth, even though they have improved with guys like Royce O'Neal joining the team at the trade deadline. I'm just not too high on the Suns. I think they can be very good. I think they can make it to the second round. But again, I just think there's better teams in the West. And for my last honorable mention, I have the Dallas Mavericks. Not the Lakers, not the Warriors. I got the Mavericks. Luka is proving to be one of the best players in the league this season. Kyrie, yes, he has had to deal with some injuries this year, but when he is playing next to Luka, they look like one of the best duos in the league. They just got PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. That has looked really good for them, especially giving them some more bigs and some more depth off that bench, and even in the starting lineup, potentially having Derek Lively come off the bench, and he's been very good as a rookie this year. Still having Tim Hardaway Jr. Josh Green has been very solid as well. Dante Exum, when he comes back, was playing very, very good, actually being a capable three-point shooter while being one of the better guard defenders in the league. this Mavericks team is a little scary. And I guess what concerns me for them is that they're just so low on the standings right now. They are currently an 8 seed, and yes, they are only a half game behind the Suns, who are the 5th seed. But if they match up against the Clippers in the first round, I don't know if that's going to really work out for them. Of course, Luka has a very good track record of playing very well against the Clippers, but the Clippers have won every single matchup against Luka. And then if they match up into the 6th seed, then they're going to have to play the Nuggets. Do I think the Mavericks are going to give the Nuggets a little bit of trouble? Yeah, definitely. But again, they're the defending champs. They have Nikola Jokic. I think they do have the best player in the series, and overall, the better team. So I would probably pick the Nuggets in that series. But again, I do think it would be close. Again, much like the Suns, I just think there's better teams than the Mavericks. But I do think that they are on the right track towards contention. They just need a little bit more time, a little bit more cohesion, maybe a couple more pieces as well. And I think they'll definitely be up there with some true contenders, just not this year. But hey, those are my thoughts on the true contenders for this season for both the Western and Eastern Conference. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and sub. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by my birthday in June, so it'd be much appreciated. You can also check out my socials down below in the description. You can also check out this video somewhere on the screen. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.